Welcome to Andy Odobot Dongle Madness. Today I have with me 5 dongle actually, and starting with this file KT, which is a South Korean DAC KT4099. All right, priced at $9.99 US, which is basically $10. And the next contestant would be a DAC chip, which is known to many, CX31993. This JM7 is pretty much one of the latest iteration of this popular DAC chip from Synaptic, and it is priced at $11.99, almost $12. And then another JCally, which is JM6 Pro, CX31993 as well, from Synaptic. However, this one is slightly different. It is in fact now accompanied by a separate amp module, which is Max 97220. So this thing in fact offers a bit more power at 1.6 VRMS. MEIZU Lifeme, again another CX31993, and also using the same amplifier mode, which is Max 97220. And last but not least, number 5 is this another JCally, which is JCally AP7. And this one is slightly different. It is in fact AK4377 ECB AKM dongle. And you see here, it is detachable with USB Type-C. And for the first time, I will share with you how do I actually spend my time testing all these dongles, all 5 of them, and every other dongles, so that I would be able to make proper assessment and do proper grading for them. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I perform the test on all these 5 dongles here. And in fact, this is pretty much the standard that I have been using to test many other dongles. First, let's have a look here. You see this thing here? This is my 1003 milliwatt Class A hybrid tube amplifier, very powerful, and being fed by this Megatron line out, which is pure line out, okay, very suitable, and this will serve as my reference. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that, of course, I'm just going to plug in my Sennheiser HD650 here to this Megatron and calibrate the volume first. Because this is a line out, the output will be always set at 100 out of 100. And I adjust the volume here. Okay. So once I hit the right volume, so that is my reference. We'll go to the first dongle, which is this FAAEAL KT. Okay, and just gonna plug it in here and connect to my PC. And then let's see if this thing is connected. So where is FAAEAL? Is it KT? Yes, KT is appearing now. Alright, so let me just try to calibrate the loudness first so that it will be similar to that Megatron. Can it match it? Basically at around 70 for KT, 70 out of 100 to match the similar level of loudness as by this desktop setup. The loudness is okay, but it's kind of a bit soft with the imaging itself. Yeah, I can hear the sparkle. The vocal is good, transparent. But I must say that the bass impact and the tone of the, this drum thing is kind of a bit, dull. So that's for KT. Okay, now connected. Let's just see if the volume is there. Yeah, it's detected already. So just going to click play again. And in fact, I was earlier testing this. It actually managed to get a similar level of volume at around 62 out of 100. I must say that this sound a bit more neutral, right? If I were to reflect back the sound that I was hearing from this KT, it's kind of a bit warmer. The note weight is okay, slightly better than KT. See how it works. Okay. So the volume is in fact at around 52, yes. Despite using the same chip, this one has higher VRMS at 1.6 VRMS. And I am hearing it. It is definitely louder. It has better loudness, better defined now. Sorry about that. Actually, almost comparable to the sound that was heard using these two. I mean, my desktop setup. Just switch to the next one. MEIZU Lifeme. Okay, so this MEIZU Lifeme is practically identical to this JM6 Pro. I'll show you later. Plug it in. All right. So is it detected? Yes. Lifeme Hi-Fi audio. Yeah, exactly at 52 as well. Rich sounding. Doesn't sound lean at all. So we have here AP7, right? So let's see how this AKM fares against the rest of the CX and KT. Oops. Okay, where are you? Yes, AP7. All right. So let's just play and calibrate the volume loudness first. I need it to be at 66 out of 100. So definitely this require a bit more of power to get an even level of loudness, more organic. The sparkle is not as well defined as the Lifeme and even JM6 Pro. By this, it's kind of like smoother. It is still there. The micro details is still there, but it's just less pronounced. In fact, I would declare that this one sounds a bit warmer as well. Still neutral, still transparent, and the mid-range. The mid-range is a bit more forward. The soundstage slightly smaller as compared to the Lifeme. The attack is kind of a bit slow as well, but nonetheless, very impressive. Organic sound. Love it. Okay, so we have tested all 5 with the power itself. And in fact, I have done this test previously with this Hi-Fi Man here, HE400 SE, which is even kind of like equally hard to drive as well, just like my Sennheiser here. I compare all these 5 dongles with my desktop setup here, which is basically, again, I repeat, very powerful at 1003 milliwatt and being fed by a true line out from this Megatron. Okay, so we are talking about stack here, desktop class stack. And definitely I would say that all 5 of them, to be fair, right, matches very closely to the sort of sound that I am hearing from this desktop setup. Okay, for as long as the volume loudness has been matched. And please remember, this USB that I'm using right now, it is in fact running on USB 3.0. So I am making sure that they're getting the best power fed to them, running on native USB Windows driver. All of them use the same driver on equal basis. So you have seen how I did my grading, my testing, and pretty much applicable to all audio gears that I am reviewing, comparison especially. And let's just go straight to the scoring itself. As you can see on screen right now, I have spent quite a bit of time with all 5 of them, back and forth, testing, comparing, and then analyzing the sort of sound that they produce. FAAEAL KT is the only one that scores really low at just 66. And in fact, at that 66, it is just a 3.5 star rated dongle. And the reason that I am kind of a bit, hard on this KT, because when you look at the competition right now in the market right now, the sort of sound coming from this dongle is just pretty much average, normal, all right? And you can get this sort of sound from any other JCally, especially the older JCally, JA21, or even, some other earlier last year release dongle. So there's nothing really special about this dongle. It is good, it is usable, but when you consider the competition, it is kind of like average. And then next, the latest iteration of this CX31993, which is this JM7. So JM7 actually scores fairly well as per expected, because this is in fact just another iteration of the previous release of CX31993. I can literally, I was actually having a bit of difficulty when I compared side by side with this, for example, this latest version of Abigail Pro and this JM7. Unless my ear is broken, I would just simply say that they are pretty much identical sounding. Yes. So there's nothing special there again. All right. But yes, it is definitely a very good dongle still with the score of 75, which is kind of like similar to Abigail Pro. It is definitely a value buy considering the price is at just 11.99. The next one, which is JM6 Pro. Now, this one is the one that, in fact, I am impressed the most. See, it is still the same CX31993 with that added amp module, okay? And as a result of that, this thing offers slightly more power at 1.6 VRMS, okay? Which means that it is, in fact, 0.6 VRMS more powerful than Abigail Pro and more powerful than this JM7. And as a result of that, as you can see just now when I was testing it, right, especially using my very hard to drive HD 650 and Hi-Fi Man HE400 SE, I was really impressed, the power that it has and then the way it handles. In fact, the sound itself matches very closely to the kind of sound that I am hearing from my desktop setup. Super impressive. So that's why the overall, I gave it an 80. And just look at the price there. Crazy cheap, 6.99 US dollar. Unbelievable, for the kind of sound that it offers, value that it offers, it definitely score perfect 10. This MEIZU Lifeme. And in fact, if you look at the price, it's kind of like really pricey at 26 US dollar. But let me show you this. These two things are practically identical. Gonna plug this Lifeme first. Right, like this. Right. And then I'm just gonna open TTGK now. Alright. And you look at the parameter there. Okay. Pay attention to the vendor ID, the product name, and product ID. Okay. So it is definitely Synaptic CX31993. Okay. Now let's have a look at JM6 Pro. Okay. And TTGK again. Okay. Just look at that. It is identical, 1-to-1, no difference at all. I must admit that this Lifeme does sound slightly better with the resolution, the note weight, and in fact, the imaging itself. But how much? It's just like literally under 5% or even perhaps 3% if I were to put a number to it. So what I'm trying to say is that if I am not comparing side by side, like what I did, critically like that, I would not be able to tell the difference between this and this, especially if the headphone or IEM are not resolving enough or not scalable enough. So a manner of saying is that these two things are the same thing, okay? The difference being that the price, of course, this thing is like 3 times the price of this. Last but not least, this JCally AP7 AKM based dongle. And in fact, just to make it simple, the moment I listened to this, it reminded me to another dongle which I love, which I have tested before and I rated very highly, which is the 7Hz 71. In fact, they are both practically identical with the pricing itself. Okay, the look may be different, the casing may be different, the branding may be different, but the internal is identical to 71. So does the sound. Okay. As you can see here, the rating for this AP7 is in fact total at around 76, which is a 4-star rated dongle. And of course, on top of that, I have here on screen right now the grading for each of the dongle when it comes to sound signature, or should I say timbre temperament. So the one that scores closest to being analog sound is in fact KT itself and AP7, a bit more organic, a bit more analog. And the 3 of the CX31993 equally at around 1, 2, 3, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 out of 10, edging closer towards, hi-fi sound rather than analog sound. But still more on the analog sound itself, okay? Last but not least, I have also added there which dongle support microphone feature. And out of 5, only AP7 does not have it. And because of that, it scores 1 point lower on the feature side. Okay, let's just wrap things up. As you can see, all these 5 dongle, budget, ultra compact dongles, they pushes the standard even higher and higher every day. And I believe things will only get better as we move forward. And perhaps one day we will even see a 5-star rated dongle, which will cost at around 25 USD, right? Perhaps just around the corner. Among all of this, to be honest with you, I cannot find any specific fault if you were to use it with highly efficient partners. And my rating was purely derived on pushing them to the max, like driving Sennheiser HD650 or even HiFiMan HE400 SE. Those are crazy things that you can do to a dongle, pushing them to the max. I hope that has been informational and useful to you. And if you have any kind of feedback, questions, or anything like that, just leave your comment at the comment section below and I'll do my best to reply. Again, thank you so much for staying with me until the end of the video, and please stay tuned to Andy Audiovlog Dongle Madness for more content like this. You have a good day there.